Take me out to California.
Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. On this channel we talk about positive mindset and resilience and just like tough life stuff, and I also talk about my family life, being a single mom of two girls, Brooke who's 8 and Texas who is 6 at the moment. Today I posted on my Instagram, drop me your questions, and some of you did actually ask me some questions, and so I thought I would open the floor to you guys and let you ask me some stuff, and it kind of gives me an idea of what you guys want me to post and talk about, and if I can create something that is going to be useful to you. So I thought I would read them out, and then I will answer the questions that I've had on here. There was a few of them. First one is a nice one, I think, and it is, how are you really feeling at the minute? Genuinely right now I overall feel pretty good. Lots of nice things happening. It's the summer holidays here in the UK, so for the parents out there it's rather tiring, and it's hard to get things done in any kind of order. So even though I've spent most of my life trying to resist any kind of scheduling and order and getting in line, actually craving a little bit of just normality and routine. So I feel pretty good overall, but I'm a little bit tired because it's the summer holidays. I'm gonna move myself up. I feel like I'm very small, and I feel like you can't properly see me. You can't see my 2-pack top. Next question is oh, hang on one sec, there's a whole lot. Do you think it's always good to have some me time even if you are an extrovert? Yes is the first answer. I always think whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, it's good to have me time. So it tends to be the difference being between extrovert and introvert is that an extrovert gets their energy, feels lit up and happy from being around people, whereas an introvert is the opposite. And I'm not sure, it's a weird thing to say, I've always kind of said I'm like, I'd say I'm an ambivert, which means both, because I would say I'm a confident introvert. So I'm very confident around people. I enjoy bouts of being around people, but I am definitely happier with one or two people or my own company. So I'm never sure where I sort of sit. People assume I'm an extrovert always, but I would say I'm a confident introvert. So I think that whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, it's really important to still have me time. Even if you get energy from being around other people as an extrovert, me time is still important because it's your check-in with yourself. Because if you're always around other people there, and that might be really good for your heart, for your soul, how you feel, sometimes you yourself can get a little bit lost in the noise. So I think it's worth finding time to have me time. I guess in the same way you could say for an introvert, even if they don't get lit up and excited by being around lots of people, having elements of socializing is good for introverts. So I guess it's having that bit of both. I think it's really still important to check in with yourself. Self-care is very important. Next question is, do you believe good things come to those who wait? Interesting question. No. No is my first thought on this. I think things happen when you make them happen. I think things happen when you believe they're gonna happen, when you keep going, when you don't give up, when you stay hopeful, and when you have an optimistic mind. I think things start to happen, but you have to take action. It isn't about wishful thinking. So certainly when we talk about the law of attraction, it's kind of it's kind of confusing for people, because we talk about, you know, putting out to the universe the things that you want, or telling your brain the things that you want, but then letting go of the outcome of that and not obsessing over it. Not obsessing doesn't mean not taking action, not taking some kind of inspired action. So inspired action, you know, let's say for example you want a new job. Inspired action would be feeling hopeful and excited that the job is coming, but putting your CV out and talking to people about the fact that you're really excited that you are going to get a new job. That would be inspired action. So not worrying that you're not going to get a job, but feeling hopeful the job's on its way, but still putting your CV out there. That would be a sort of an inspired action. So no, I don't believe that if you sit around doing nothing just because you're a good person and you're waiting that things will happen. No, I don't. I think if you stay hopeful and you keep putting out what you want, you keep creating and you stay positive and hopeful, I think things will happen. Yes, if you have a mindset that is untouchable and super focused on how, you know, creating the life that you want, then the world moves out of your way. But I don't believe if you sit around in your house wishing things to happen and just waiting for things to turn good, that they necessarily will. They might, but it would be more just pot luck than actually a thing that happens, because for most people they'd just be sat there and nothing would happen. So that's my thoughts on that. Do you think there is always a way out of depression? Yeah, and that may well be because I have an optimistic and hopeful mind, because I do. I also really, really believe in people. But again, just like the good things come to those who wait, I think it's the same when it comes to our mental health. We still have to do something. We still have to do something towards it. We have to walk through. We have to try something. We have to reach out. We have to ask for help. We still have to do something. You know, of course, mental health is it's such a minefield, and it's the reason I talk so much about it and do so much to do with it, because there are many ways to find your way out of a depression. One of the things that's always a big thing for me is that labels are useful and a hindrance in the same breath. Isn't that a conundrum? I think having the label of depression is really useful. One, because you kind of, I feel like it lets the world know and lets you know that you are really going through it, that at this moment in time in your life you are really feeling rubbish and you can't get it, you don't feel good, you can't get it together, and it's a signal to you that you're not kind of, that somebody outside of you has validated the pain that you're feeling, and it's a signal to those around you that you really need help. When we get these labels of you have depression, the problem going forward from that is if we grasp on to this label, I have depression, then it's a very stuck place to be. I have depression, what, indefinitely? If you say I am going through depression, at the moment I'm going through some depression, that is a feeling, and it is absolutely just a mindset shift of being able to come through the other side, rather than I have depression. People talk about depression there, like my depression or my anxiety, and I think that will keep you stuck. If you are owning it, it's yours, it's my anxiety, it's my depression, I will not let go of it, then you get to keep it, ultimately. Now, of course, like all, you know, mental health stuff, there are absolutely people who have mental illness, and that needs other intervention, that needs help from medical professionals, and that is not me. I am a life coach, and I talk about ways that we can influence ourselves. There is absolutely, when you look at studies of depression, there is a genetic makeup that we all have where we are predisposed to certain things, and that could be, you know, in all aspects of our life we have a genetic makeup, and there will be absolutely a certain shift towards certain mental health conditions, or a positive or negative mindset. There is an element that they can see where there is a slight difference person to person. So you were kind of born a little bit more negative, or with the chance of potentially having you're more predisposed to mental health conditions than others. However, that said, That doesn't mean that there isn't a big chunk where you can control it, and there's a huge chunk. So that, in the same way, I guess, if you think about weight and body type, I'm particularly a petite person. So if you looked at me and then you took somebody else who's maybe a lot bigger than me, broader shoulders, taller than me, they may be predisposed ever so slightly more than me to put on weight, and it might take me a little bit longer. Believe me, if I keep eating pies and don't move for 3 weeks, I will put on weight. So we do have, in the same way with our weight or our body types, there is a certain, set point, but there's a huge chunk that we control. So it's the same with our mental health. And so I really do believe, and maybe this is an optimistic mindset, but I really do believe that there is a key for everybody to find their thing, their way through it. And I certainly believe that we have to do something. We have to take charge of our lives. We have to, watch videos like this on YouTube where we talk about things like this. We have to connect with others. We have to be ruthless with our mindsets, be really ruthless. And this is the stuff I talk about in my workshops and on my online course and on this channel. We've got to get ruthless with our brains, because our brains are predisposed to be more negative. Because when we were cavemen and women, we needed to be negative in case we got our food pinched and our wives and children taken and pillaged, stuff like that. We needed to be more negative, we needed to be on guard, but our brains haven't evolved so much, and they still behave in the same way, in a more negative way. So we, as conscious, woke people, we need to go, hang on a minute, brain, I'm going to do some work on you because you're going to mess about and make me feel rubbish. So I believe that we have to do something in that. And that doesn't mean, that's not about blame, because I do think that it's always important to reach out. And if you need to reach out and speak to a doctor or a therapist or a good friend or an old lady who you speak to at the bus stop, you need to reach out and you need to do that. And if you are going through something at the moment, don't sit silent, okay? Don't at all sit silent. Speak out, talk to somebody who can help, because there is always people out there. So that is my thoughts on that one. How do you help a young child deal with a relationship breakdown? So, excuse me, I haven't been through this before, so I can't really comment, but I think I have gone through tough stuff with my kids. So my husband died, which means that my children are bereaved and they grieve, and there is a lot of stuff that has gone on in that transition that actually in some ways is the same. There are lots of similarities in breakups, because it's a grieving process in a breakup, isn't there? But when it comes to children, I think talking to them is key. Don't leave anything to chance, and just be really open and loving, and talk and be honest. And if they're really young children, I guess it's just passage of time, and just making sure that during that space when the partner's moved out, that the children just feel safe and loved. And you might just have to be extra loving and make sure that, I don't know, extra bedtime stories, but this is obviously age dependent, of course. Excuse me, guys, really dry throat. But I think if they're a little bit older and you can converse with them, it's always about just talking and being honest and allowing them to ask any questions, telling them they can ask any questions, and being as real as possible in a childlike way. But I've had every conversation with my kids, and we actually talk about relationships a lot, and we talk about how there are many different types of relationships, and sometimes people just fall out of love. Sometimes it didn't work out. There are many families that come in all shapes and sizes, step parents, step children, whatever, single parent families. It doesn't really matter. All children need is to be loved and not to feel lied to, or as if they haven't, you haven't been honest with them. And if possible, I guess when there's, depending on what the situation is, try certainly to phase the person out of their life if you can, but I guess that's not always possible to do that. So yeah, I think talking is key. And if that isn't, if they're too young to be able to understand that, then just lots of love, lots of cuddles. And children are very resilient, so they're good. Children are very resilient. They're probably more resilient than us as adults. Do you believe you should always follow your heart or listen to your head? Interesting one. I guess, do we have to choose? Do we have to? Because I would say I'm a very gut instinct person. So I guess a heartfelt person. But that doesn't mean that I would be illogical in my decision making either. But what I have learned in my heart or head moments is really listen to your gut. And actually, me and my husband wouldn't have been together had I listened to my head. Because my head, when we got together, I was with somebody else. I was living in a different city. I had a mortgage, a dog. I'd just met him. Like, that was the situation. If I'd listened to my head and I'd written that down on paper, that would have seemed a really bad idea and it would have seemed like a risk. But 10 years together, 2 children, an amazing life, and even with all the sadness that came with his death, I wouldn't change any of that. So that was absolutely heart. And I think sometimes when people fully run from head and they're not listening to their heart, then they can get stuck in being in a situation where they end up not feeling so happy because they missed an opportunity because they didn't listen to their heart and their instinct and their gut. And life is a silly old adventure, and sometimes you've got to have these moments of just love and craziness. And so I guess a bit of both, but don't get stuck in logic, because there's no logic in heart stuff, in love, or there's not really any logic. Sometimes you fall in love with somebody that you weren't expecting to, and it doesn't fit into a neat box, you know. Okay, next question is, do you believe someone needs to go through destructive mode and depression to really understand the true meaning of a happy life? No, I don't. But I do believe that the toughest moments in our lives, the things that we go through that are really hard, definitely teach us what we have in our locker, and they make us really focus, really get clear, proper clarity. When my husband was diagnosed with brain cancer, I can remember the clarity, the level of clarity, and I felt the same when he died. It was almost as if the silly things that you worry about just didn't matter at all, because there was something bigger and more important. So I do think people who have been through some tough stuff, some challenges in their lives, often just get so clear that what matters to them is very evident. It's very easy for them to see. So I don't think you necessarily have to have gone through stuff to discover what makes you feel great and the meaning of life. I mean, the meaning of life's a fairly big thing, and I don't think any of us really know that. But knowing what your own why is, and you know, what makes you feel good and that kind of thing. No, I don't think you have to have it. I think it's probably a jump start to working out what you want and what's important. It's kind of like a quicker way there, cheat there. Not a very nice cheat, but it's a cheat there. Whereas if you have nothing go on, then maybe you could just sort of float through life and not really know. I don't know, because I have been through some stuff, and I think it just makes things very, very clear. But I don't necessarily think you have to go through it. And I've done a video on the struggle and being addicted to the struggle, so I don't necessarily think that's always a good thing. Next question is, this is from Emily as well, and she says, if I get a fish for Harlow's birthday, what should we call it? Okay. My dad's name's Brian. Call the fish Brian. What else? Kat says, who was your best to work with in Waterloo Road? So I did the second series of Waterloo Road, which it's not on now. It was a BBC drama where I played Leanne Galloway, and I worked with some ace people on that show. But I would say the the people I work with most, Lauren Drummond and Tom Payne, were both delightful, lovely people to work with. And Lauren I've kept in touch with, and she's a gorgeous human being. She's just a lovely, lovely person. She played Mika in Waterloo Road, if you are a fan of the show. So that's it. Kat says, do you have any tips on how to talk to someone when you're not in a good headspace or a crisis? So do I have any tips on how to talk to someone when you're okay, so when you need to ask for help? I think that's what you're saying. I think everybody kind of finds it difficult to ask for help because we all want to feel like we're okay and we'll deal with it, and we don't want to be a burden, and these are things that we hear. But the truth is, the people that are around you, Kat, they want to help. And this is something that my husband Ross taught me when he was going through radiotherapy. We had a lot of people around us that wanted to help, and I've always been a person who finds it difficult to ask for help. I'm a lot better now. I find it a lot easier now, but I've always been that, you know, no, I'll keep going. I can deal with this, you know, small person syndrome attitude. I will just get back up. No one needs to help me. Independent woman. And so I didn't always recognize, and it was actually my husband Ross who said to me, I didn't recognize that, because I was like, no, I'll take you to the radiotherapy every day. You have to go every day. And it is a different city to where we live. So it was about a 35-40 minute journey every day, and I was like, no, I'll do it. And he said to me, no, people want to help, let them help, give them the gift of being able to help. And I would say it's the same for you, Kat, that sometimes we can feel a burden, or we can feel like we are not worthy of people helping us, or I don't know, all this nonsense, this stories that we tell ourselves. But the truth is, people really want to help, and the moment you ask, they've probably been waiting in the wings, like, she's ready for the help, now I can do something. I know that that's the case. So I guess taking that first step is always a bit tricky, but I really do urge you to do that, and just to say when you're not coping, because, you know, it's just important. It's important that we talk about stuff. And I think that if you ask the people around you, that they will ultimately want to help you. Yeah, I think that's my answer. I don't know if there's any other way of putting it. I think you've kind of got to, because if you're at the stage where that's how you're feeling, it's not going to get any better without it coming out and not being in your head. It's much, much better out, and I think that you'll find that people really want to help you. Okay, let's have a look. Francis says, you inspire people to live their lives positively. Who inspires you to do the same? That's a nice question. Thank you firstly for the compliment, and I hope that I get to do that in some way. Do you know, I find inspiration in lots of different people, and I guess it's not always the big inspiring people that are actively, you know, doing the kind of similar stuff to me, you know, the motivational type stuff and the positive thinking type stuff. It's not always those people. I get inspired by bravery and people who really live their lives fully. That inspires me massively. When I see people living their lives really loud and out there, and whatever their thing is, just being their full out selves, even if it's completely opposite to me, but it makes me go, fair play. Like, that is who you are, and I can see that you are just living your life and just doing you. That inspires me to be more me and to be my truest self. That inspires me. Closer to home around me, my sister inspires me. She's gone through lots of tough stuff herself. Her partner has had leukemia for the second time, and she was there to help me and my girls when my husband was in the hospice. She looked after my daughters, and I think she's a very inspiring person. Emma Kenny, who is a friend of mine, who has recently, she's a psychologist here in the UK. She's often on This Morning and TV and lots of TV stuff, and Emma's fantastic, and she has a very similar mindset to me. And Emma recently, very sadly, had her dad committed suicide after a battle of about 9 months with psychosis. And if you don't follow Emma, then you definitely should. And she's talking about her journey of grief right now a lot on social media. Emma inspires me because she's very resilient, and she has a very similar mindset to me in that, especially in terms of grief, let yourself be, let yourself cry, go through the process, and don't expect much of yourself, but that she will be okay eventually. And yeah, I find that inspiring, and I, you know, I hear many stories every day that inspire me. Yeah, does that answer the question? I think it does. Okay, what have we got? What helps you organise your headspace? Do you have a pro forma used for your brain dumps? So this is a lady who came to, a lady called Gurpreet, that came to my workshop, and her son has leukemia, and she came and she was showcasing her business, Mimi's Edit. I will put a link below. I'm not getting paid to advertise this, I'm just telling you. So she came to my workshop and she promoted her business there, and so she's gone through a whole lot of stuff herself in her personal life, and she's also a businesswoman. So in terms of organising my headspace, it's absolutely about getting it on paper. And Gurpreet mentioned that I do a brain dump, and a brain dump being get it all out on paper. I talk about this in more detail at my workshops. But it's just getting it on paper, because when we have something in our head, when we are full, it spins round and it gets to go back round again, and we think about it more, and we think about it before we go to sleep, and we think about that job that we've got to do, and our heads get full. When it's out on paper, it can't go anywhere. It's just there, you can watch it. That's the thing I need to do. You can see it, it's out, there's something physical in that. There's no sort of, I guess, logic for that when I write it down. I just get it out on paper. I think that's the most important thing, is physicalizing it and getting it out and it not being in my head. That is the biggest thing for me, because I am a big overthinker and I think about every eventuality, not in a negative way. I'm actually a very optimistic person, but I do overthink things, and I think, oh, did that person mean this when they said this, and do I mean this when I say this, and did I really mean this, and am I even here? Yeah, it can get deep. So it's, yeah, for me, it's just really organising my headspaces. I'm not a naturally organised person, so I have to get quite ruthless in terms of scheduling and lists and all that kind of stuff. Milna says, are you having a lovely summer so far? And I think that is a lovely one to end on. Yes, I am, thank you. I've had a very quick summer. It's felt very quick, but we've done a lot of stuff as a family, as our little family, and it has been nice. I will link our summer holiday video on this, or some of our summer holiday videos. We've had a really nice summer. It's been good. It's hectic as a single parent. It's very hectic as a parent, not just a single parent. It is it's hectic in the summer, but it has been nice. The UK summer is delightful. So yeah, so thank you so much for your questions. They were lovely, and I really do genuinely like hearing from you. So if you have questions for me, pop them below this, because then I can make videos about the things that you asked me. There was one other question, but I'm going to do that question on a separate video because it was a lot bigger, and I can share that with you and we can make a whole video on it and we can talk. If you like this video, then please do me the honour. Oh, I made it really grand, didn't I? Do me the honour of subscribing to my channel and clicking the bell so you get notified when I make videos, and share this with people that you love and care about and think will enjoy this video. And thank you so much for all your support. I genuinely do mean that. I'm not just being jokey. Thanks, because it helps. And if I don't get likes and comments on here and subscribers, it kind of makes it harder for me to do stuff. Kind of, you know, all that stuff. Anyway, see you later. Peace out.
Take me out to